Hi, I just wanted to say hello. I'm with my wife here.
Lori.
Yeah, and I'm Jonathan, and we are here with Autoimmune Secrets, sharing with you this life-saving resource so we can help make a better future, a better tomorrow, a life where people are not suffering with these conditions that they don't need to suffer with, and that they can turn these horrible symptoms around, this horrible experience, by using the tips, the tools, the strategies, the protocols that our experts outline and that we prove through all these amazing case studies of these beautiful people that have been so generous to share their lives with us. So we just want to encourage you to make that decision today.
We've been so incredibly blessed by being exposed and being part of this community of health professionals that dedicate their lives to researching all of these things, and have come out, some of them have come out of their own health struggles and come out victorious, or have helped countless of people. And it's just amazing, and it's transformed our own lives to be part of this community. And we're inviting you to be part of this community. We're inviting you to take up the torch and light it up and share it and spread it, expose these truths out into the community that will save lives. We are just ordinary folk that are just trying to spread this out to as many people as we possibly can. And you can be a part of that as well, just by sharing this information, just by popping it into a DVD player and being able to watch it and share it, give it as gifts. So much life-giving information, and you can be part of spreading the word, just as we have.
So thank you so much for your consideration. That support allows us to keep going and making a difference in parts of the world that need a lot of help. The East African famine right now, we're seeing people on the brink of starvation, and they truly need that support. So that's why we've, as a family, my wife and I have made that commitment to stay working with these people as we have for the last 5 years, to continue. And we donate a large portion of what comes through the purchases of the silver and gold package of Autoimmune Secrets goes to this particular charity and some others that are very, very meaningful, doing wonderful things, saving lives, both in these countries and in our own lives.
And we've definitely committed to those that have lost their lives because of starvation, something as simple as being able to feed someone and change their life around. Those that have passed away, we've made it our mission to carry out and let their death not be in vain, and also just to continue to help those that are at the brink of dying because of starvation or because of malnourishment. We want to help them, and you can be a part of that as well.
Yeah, so we just thank you for coming with us in a journey, and we're sharing something that's very important to us. We're here for you, we're here for what you're experiencing, and we've created this resource to be valuable to you, to be priceless, so you can have a tool that will change your lives, help to save the life of someone you love, help to save your health. There's no greater gift that you have to offer the world than having your health, because from it, you can have every other great thing, a wonderful thing. So go ahead and make the decision today to help support our mission by clicking the link below and owning either the silver or the gold package of Autoimmune Secrets. Thank you so much. Welcome to Autoimmune Secrets. I'm your host, Jonathan Otto. Thank you so much for being here. Shows your commitment to your health, and I really value that. In episode 5, we learned about the complex communication system between the gut and the brain called the gut-brain connection. In this episode, we'll find out how gut problems can also contribute to weight gain. We'll explore how obesity can actually influence the development of disease. Now, I want to give a huge thank you to those of you that chose to support this mission by owning the Autoimmune Secrets silver or gold package. That makes such a difference because it allows us to keep going, getting this message to the world to help change lives. It also allows you to have a tool in your home, it's in your home library at your fingertips to reach at a time of need. If you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling like you need guidance, because you have that tool in your hands. You can learn more about it by clicking the link below and see the special offer that we have during this screening. You won't want to miss this special offer, so go ahead and check it out. Now let's dive into the rest of the episode.
At 190 pounds, at being 5 feet 5.5 inches tall, I was obese. I was wearing shirts now that look like tents that I could camp in.
Show me.
I was wearing this shirt. And it was loose, but I thought I could hide in here. That's a big shirt. That's the size of a tent for a small child.
Wow. You say it was loose, a little loose, or very loose?
It wasn't very loose. It was a little loose.
So that was a shirt. That was a normal shirt that you would wear.
Yep, I've got another one.
Please go.
I had a whole drawer full of them. I've gotten rid of most of them.
Huh.
I'm certified as a master scuba diver. I went all over the world scuba diving.
Wow.
So I collected shirts from wherever I went.
That's incredible.
That's a big shirt. I could get 2 of me in here now.
What is it like for you when you pick up that shirt? What do you feel?
I feel horrible. I got myself that big. I did that to me. Nobody else did that to me. I did that. I was ashamed. I felt humiliated.
Why did you do it? You said you did that to yourself, and I feel bad for you saying that. But I'm curious, in looking back over your life and looking at yourself with compassion, I'm sure you learned to do it because you've looked after yourself. I'm sure you understand self-compassion and these things. But why do you think that you allowed yourself to do that to yourself?
I was hiding.
Yeah. Why
I'd
were
been
you-
through 3 bad marriages.
Yeah.
I was hiding.
3 bad marriages, and you were hiding from what?
Probably another serious relationship. I had put all this insulation around me so I would stay safe.
I had developed arthritis. I had developed prediabetes, even though I ate very healthy, I thought. And I had a knee replacement from the arthritis in 2014. And as a result of that, I evidently developed a huge yeast overgrowth. And so I finally had reached my limit with regular doctors because they were offering me appetite suppressants because I was so hungry at night, and gained 14 pounds in 9 months because I was so hungry. And I couldn't sleep because I was so hungry, and I was eating at midnight or 2. And I knew something was wrong. So I got so upset about it that I had already been thinking about Dr. Osborne because he had written articles that I'd seen, and I'd read them, and I thought it made a lot of sense. And so when I reached my breaking point, I made the appointment, and 4 months later went to see him. And right away, he said, "You sound like a classic person who has gluten sensitivities," but he listed several things of testing that I could have done, or that he wanted me to do if I decided to follow the protocol. And we found out the main problem that I was having right then and there was the yeast overgrowth. And so he put me on a very strict yeast-free diet, along with no grains because of my arthritis and having gluten sensitivities. And he said I was also severely deficient in several vitamins and minerals that everybody needs to produce glucose. So that was probably why I was hungry, but also pre-diabetic. And within the first week of the yeast-free diet, I started losing weight immediately. But amazingly, I'd stopped the grains too, and amazingly, I was no joint pain within just days of going off grain, totally.
Faith came to see me. She'd had a prior knee replacement surgery, and it was several years ago. And she came to see me because she couldn't satisfy her hunger. Like, she was voraciously hungry, felt like she was starving, even though she would eat plenty of food. And she had a lot of gut symptoms. Her gut was, she had a lot of intermittent, gut problems in terms of her bowel movements, and then she had just pain and uncomfortableness. And she didn't know why. She felt like her diet was really good. She felt like she exercised and did a lot of the things right. But in her case, and we did some additional testing, and we found, one of the things we found was she had a major yeast overgrowth, which is, and that was in her GI tract. And yeast, interestingly enough, yeast is a fermenter, right? Fermentation, when you feed yeast sugar from your diet, again, even if it's fruit, they can take that food and they can turn it into alcohol. That's, fermentation. We take grapes, we take yeast, we make wine, right? Well, her gut was a distillery. It was its own distillery. So part of her gut symptoms were just from her own auto-brewery syndrome. She was basically making her own wine, even though she wasn't drinking. And that causes gut disruption, but it also creates hunger. How does that create hunger? Well, alcohol causes B vitamin deficiency. Alcohol causes a lot of nutritional deficiency. So it didn't matter how much she ate. One, she was feeding the yeast, and the yeast were producing the alcohol, and the alcohol is a diuretic, but it's also a malnourishing agent that causes vitamin and mineral deficiency. So it set her up on this vicious cycle of starvation in the presence of plenty, right? She had plenty of food. It wasn't an issue of how much food was coming in. It was just an issue that it wasn't nourishing her. So we had to go after those yeast. First we had to identify them. Then we had to create a plan to go after and kill them. And so once that happened, her gut symptoms cleared up completely.
The result was I lost weight. Over the course of 6 months, I lost 30 pounds. I felt relief from no pain. Before, I would, for instance, wash some of my windows on the back porch, and I would take a break, and when I got up to walk around, I felt like an 80-year-old hobbling around with so much pain. And now I can clean all my windows and keep going, and no pain whatsoever. So that's a great improvement. I've also learned what foods I'm allergic to. I was eating eggs and found out I was allergic to egg whites and almonds. I was eating a lot of almonds, and so I've cut those things out. I now eat duck eggs, which I'm not allergic to because I love eggs, and I find them at the local farmer's market.
She just needed to eat the right food, and she needed to get rid of the yeast overgrowth, and then her body received the nutrition from the food, and it was able to satisfy her appetite and create a resolution for her gut symptoms. So a classic example of, eating more doesn't solve the problem of voracious hunger or of a lack of ability to grow. And I see this in kids, especially failure to thrive, or little babies. The parents are, the pediatricians say, feed the kid Pediasure, feed the kid, these sugary processed drinks, just get more calories in the kid, and the kid's not growing, and the kid is actually digressing and shrinking. And we take that out and we start taking away all the chemicals and the processed junk and give them real food. Guess what happens? They start growing. They don't even have to eat as many calories. They just start growing again. Now, again, not that Faith was a kid, but she was an adult post-surgically who developed, in my opinion, probably developed the yeast overgrowth because of the antibiotics used, right? The IV antibiotics that are used during surgeries predispose someone to a yeast overgrowth. So you get, anytime you take an antibiotic, you run the risk that you're wiping out your good gut flora, and that yeast will take over. They will start to replicate and populate your gut instead. And a yeast overgrowth, again, it can produce alcohol, it causes brain fog, it causes fatigue, it causes excessive hunger and excessive craving. It can cause disruption in your hormones, disruption in your blood sugar, it can cause thyroid problems. So it can create a whole lot of different types of symptoms. Hers just happened to be that voracious hunger.
Yeast overgrowth and autoimmune disease often go hand in hand to exacerbate each other. Many people are struggling with brain fog, digestive issues, fatigue, and sugar cravings, are just actually struggling with yeast infection and they don't even know it.
If you're having gut issues, one of the things to look at is intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And basically what happens, think of it as, you have Swiss cheese in the intestinal tract and the holes are too big. So there's things sneaking through. And when there's foreign things sneaking through, then we're now absorbing things that we're not supposed to. And again, these are foreign objects. This can cause weight issues. This can often times do the opposite though, or actually create so much inflammation, so much autoimmunity that people become underweight. So we've got kind of the spectrum that, yeah, you could definitely be overweight from having gut issues and leaky gut and inflammation there and foreign things getting in or undenatured proteins and things getting in. But you can also have the other side, which I usually see from a clinician standpoint, of the chronically ill or this very severe chronic autoimmune state where it's really like, underweight. So I feel like no matter if you're under or over, we still want to heal the body and go after the sources that are upstream, and then the body will come back to whatever its ideal weight is for you, your body type, your age, all the above.
Okay, let's be honest. Our culture is obsessed with weight, right? Maybe you, maybe your family members, maybe there's a lot of conversation around weight. Whether it's carrying an extra few pounds or feeling too skinny, very few of us are ever happy with our body size. Even when we're in the process of reversing autoimmune disease, we can prioritize our weight over our healing. Sometimes our weight seems so unhealthy that it makes us feel scared. Other times we just don't know how to look in the mirror. Here's what we need to understand. Almost everyone with an autoimmune disease has it affect their weight one way or another, because weight struggles are often a result of disease. So only by prioritizing healing will we reach that healthy weight we desire, and that takes time and patience.
I knew that I was eating too much. I thought I was eating the right things. I quote unquote tried to lose weight. And then I realized the way that I was talking to myself it wasn't beneficial to me. Mm-hmm. What do we do when we lose our keys? We find them again and we make duplicates. And that's exactly what I was doing. I'd go down 2 and come back up 4. Mm-hmm. I'd lose those pounds and I'd find them and they'd come back with reinforcements.
Yeah.
So I haven't lost 65 pounds. I have downsized. I have dropped it. I have used up that stored energy. I've done everything else but lose. I did not wake up any morning of my life saying, today I want to be a loser. No, that's not me.
You won.
I won.
Yeah.
Today I'm a winner. I won by another pound. I won by another 1/10 of a pound. It doesn't matter. A winner is a winner, regardless of by how much.
Stephanie, can you tell me about cortisol? Where does it come from and how does it affect weight gain?
Yeah, so cortisol is our major stress hormone. And there's external stressors that we all deal with, called life. It's one of the things that cortisol, which is a hormone made in our adrenal glands. The adrenals sit on top of the kidneys. And they're actually there to keep us alive. And so the main job of cortisol is to allow us to buffer life stressors, but it's not just the external stressors that it's working to buffer, it's also working on buffering biological stressors, which looks like inflammation. And so, if you're getting stress signaling, either from your lifestyle or from the food you eat, there's stress signals in food, actually, like actual stress molecules or compounds, in the form of like omega-6 fatty acids and like simple, carbohydrates and so on and so forth. Or there's biological stressors, there's inflammatory processes going on, either because there's, chronic infection or there's, toxic burden. The body goes into protection mode. And in protection mode, its main job is to try to survive. And cortisol is a signal that's there for survival. If we lose all cortisol, we can't live. And in survival mode, the last thing it wants to do are what are considered more superfluous, processes like weight loss. So it holds on like almost like a shield, or like a battle shield, because it's dealing with external stressors or internal inflammatory stressors, like a fire that it's trying to dampen.
Then how do I reverse the effects of cortisol in the body and with weight gain?
Yeah, so you have to deal with where the source of the cortisol excess is coming from. So if it's lifestyle aspects, like you're sitting in traffic several hours a day, and you're sitting at a desk all day, and you have deadlines, and your relationship is stressful and you're not getting enough sleep, those are things that you can control externally and start making changes to, that then give the signal to your adrenals that, you know, you can calm down and actually regulate and, you know, put out the proper amount of cortisol. And the same goes for internal inflammatory impact. Looking for source of inflammation with what you eat being one of the, you know, lowest hanging, most abundant aspects of that, because we do it multiple times a day.
Excellent.
So you can change the source and the adrenals will self-regulate, and when they self-regulate, your body has a new signal that says, okay, we're not in fight or flight, we're not in battle mode, we can now utilize, you know, and perform mechanisms that allow for, you know, normal metabolism again. One of the main hormones for weight is insulin. So insulin is an energy storage hormone, or energy signaling hormone. And it, along with its cousin leptin, which is a hormone of satiety, like the brain signal that says once you've eaten, you're full, play a role in the way the body utilizes the food you take in. If those signals are broken or downregulated, as opposed to eating and then utilizing that food for energy, the food instead goes into a storage form, and, you know, it ends up as accumulated weight and fat, and that all happens from, you know, metabolic dysregulation, like hormonal dysregulation, which is why also the efforts that people undertake in order to change the amount of food that they eat doesn't really change the hormonal signaling. You have to, you know, change the programming, you have to change the response.
Our question is, does obesity play a role in the development of Alzheimer's? Well, the bottom line answer is yes. The route is not that obesity causes Alzheimer's. No, it doesn't. No, the processes that are going on that develop obesity in a person are similar processes that go on that cause Alzheimer's. Okay, and what that is, a lot of it comes back to blood sugar metabolism. In order to put on girth and become obese, you have to have a blood sugar disorder. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Blood sugar metabolism has to be off in order for that to happen. Blood sugar is fuel. Okay, and if your body doesn't utilize that fuel, it will store it. Okay, and if it is in the process of just storing fuel, you're going to gain weight. Your girth is going to increase. Okay, well, if the cells, remember we talked about how those insulin receptor sites, if they're not working right and insulin isn't plugging into the cell and isn't opening the cell so the sugar can get into the cell and so the cell can utilize it, all that fuel gets backing up in the system and it has to be stored. Something has to be done with it. Okay, and one of the things your body will do to it is it will convert the sugar to triglycerides, and those triglycerides will be stored in your fat cells. That process is a similar process to the insulin resistance that's happening in the brain. So we have the same thing going on. So people that are obese will be more prone to Alzheimer's because of the insulin resistance component.
Yeah, so the Alzheimer's dementia category is what they refer to as type 3 diabetes. So type 3 diabetes is diabetes of the brain, essentially. But there's other types of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes, which is classically known to be an autoimmune in nature, where basically the islet cells get attacked, there's destruction, autoimmune attacking of the islet cells and production. There's type 2 diabetes, which is classically known as just being like, you're eating too much sugar, you have too high of glucose levels, but more recent research has actually shown that type 2 diabetes has an autoimmune component to it, that they're actually finding about 1 in 3 cases of type 2 diabetes are actually related to chemicals or toxins. And what they're saying is that these chemicals or toxins are actually damaging our insulin receptors, or they're occupying the insulin receptors so the body can't recognize it, and then that's what's actually triggering us to have type 2 diabetes. So a lot we're learning about it, but type 2 diabetes, 1 in 3 cases are autoimmune in nature. There's also other types like diabetes type 1.5 or LADA, LADA. That's latent autoimmune diabetes of adulthood. I believe that's what it stands for. That's autoimmune in nature. So we've got type 1, we've got type 1.5. Now we're finding that actually quite a decent amount of type 2 is actually autoimmune related as well.
I've never had to really focus on weight a whole lot, but what I was noticing was that I was carrying my weight very differently, and I started having I've never carried weight in my stomach, and I noticed that I was really starting to carry weight in my stomach, and that I was having to work a lot harder to kind of maintain, and not sleeping well. Then my temptation would be to get up and drink a lot of coffee, but coffee upsets my system, and so then I wasn't feeling well, and I don't think I was eating. I don't eat a whole lot. And I eat a lot of soup, I drink a lot of smoothies. And Heather has said, Ariel, if I didn't have to eat, I wouldn't eat at all. And Heather said, Ariel, it's because you've been eating things that have made you feel bad. She said, you don't like food because you equate it with, and I think I do, at a really fundamental level, I think I equate food with feeling sick. I was told that the stomach weight piece had to do with adrenal issues that I was having. And I think not sleeping was getting tied in there, and so I was drinking a lot of caffeine. I was having cravings for things that weren't really nutritious, and so I think now I'm exercising. I think I'm eating things that my system isn't causing a lot of inflammation. My system's can digest, where I'm able to branch out between or beyond just soup and smoothies, and eating more real food, more fibrous food. So I think I can just feel my system operating much better. And I was able to go back down in my pant size. And so I got rid of all of the pants that I had bought, because now I'm back down to my original size.
Now, when it comes to weight loss, Stephanie, I think a lot of people are trying to lose weight and really finding it super hard to do that. Mm-hmm. And I sense that there are hidden reasons why that is the way that it is for these people. What do you think? Do you believe that? And what do you think some of these reasons are?
I do. The most obvious things, which are things that my patients come in with having already done, are with the foods they eat. So if it's not that, and they're eating a healthy diet, the more nuanced reasons that I have witnessed include what I would consider subclinical insulin resistance, for example. So as opposed to already being, diabetic or even pre-diabetic, they're inching towards that zone where their insulin receptors are downregulated, and they're not processing the foods that they eat in the way that their body can utilize. They're actually storing sugars in a sense as fat. So that's one of the major reasons. Second major reason that I see is because of inflammation. So again, the foods that you eat contribute hugely to how much inflammatory burden there is on your system, and it's probably the biggest impact point in the sense that we eat multiple times a day. Food is information. It tells our system how to operate and how to organize itself. And even when you start making healthier choices, if there's a long established inflammatory burden on the body, the ecosystem, the biological ecosystem says inflammation is a battle that I'm waging, and before it wants to do things like get rid of excess weight, it's in protective conservation mode because it's busy dealing with the inflammatory fire that's in their system. So that's another thing I see. And then toxins too are another they're not only a source of inflammation, but they are stored in fat cells, and they change the metabolic signaling that is involved in utilizing energy. So I could probably go into a lot more other options, but those are some of the patterns I see.
We know that autoimmune disease can affect weight, but there's also some overlap that suggests it works the other way too. Metabolic disease can provoke autoimmunity. With new research, the distinction between autoimmune and metabolic diseases like obesity gets very blurry, which raises the important questions about how people should eat and manage those problems.
The things that cause autoimmunity will also trigger weight gain, Jonathan. So that's an important thing to look at. And really in our modern day epidemic right now, heavy metal toxicity, chemical toxicity like pesticides, all these chemicals and toxins are what actually trigger autoimmunity, and then they also cause weight gain. So these toxins, when we're exposed to toxins, the body tries to process them. When it can't, it stores them in fat as a way to protect the body from the toxin or chemical attacking and damaging tissue, basically, or inflaming other tissue. So somebody that's weight loss resistant, where you can't lose weight, and like you mentioned, you just breathe and you gain some weight. What happens is oftentimes you need to start with detoxification first. You need to start detoxing these chemicals out, and when there's no toxin inside the fat anymore, then oftentimes the body's like, what's the purpose of the fat here? Like, we have excess, let's get rid of it. So instead of counting calories and robbing Peter to pay Paul type of thing, and the dieting and all that stuff, a lot of times when we work on detoxification, then it'll allow the body to go to more of the ideal body weight. And then the upside of that too is the more toxins we remove, the autoimmunity of the body, like this autoimmune storm, this autoimmune reaction we're having, oftentimes decreases significantly.
So Dr. J, are you saying that if somebody has a gut-related issue that's been caused by, say, environmental toxin, or if they're eating something that their body is extremely sensitive to, that it's inflammatory for them, that it's going to cause them to put on weight drastically?
Yeah. Toxins are foreign substances. They cause inflammation. They get stored in fat cells, and that changes our metabolism. Like, our body literally changes its internal physiology to try to cope with the toxin. So the key source is eat a clean diet so you're not exposed to, the standard American diet of all this processed food toxins. Try to clean up your environment. You can never live in a bubble, but try to clean that environment up, reduce the toxin load. And the likelihood of you gaining weight from toxins is very unlikely. And if you already are overweight, having health issues, in the weight category and really struggling, consider detoxifying. It's been such a huge help for so many people.
Fat cells don't just hang out in your body storing energy. They're metabolically active in their own right, and in particular, they control some powerful inflammatory messengers. Studies suggest that inflammatory signals from fat cells affect the immune response, which makes obese people more prone to developing autoimmune reactions.
Part of putting on weight is often a protective response to that inundation of chemicals and metals. It needs to secure them somewhere so they're not going to disrupt the processes that we really need. And once they get into fat cells, or once they get deposited into bone or deposited into the liver and the kidneys, they're a lot harder to get rid of. So in my practice, I help people figure out where are those exposures coming from, test to see if they're actually getting into the body, and then how can we remove them to free up your body to start dumping the things that have built up. That's a wonderful approach. So instead of focusing on the fat itself, if you actually focused on what toxins that my body is having trouble dealing with are coming in, where are they coming in from, and then you start to eliminate your current exposures to toxins, your body breathes a sigh of relief. It says, okay, so now I can maybe start slowly but surely dealing with what's built up in me, and don't have quite such a burden of what's coming in every day all the time. And then it can start to slowly but surely release some of the chemicals and metals that have built up. and the weight can actually start to dissolve. So it's not the weight you need to focus on every time. Sometimes it's what is causing that weight to even be accumulating there in the first place. Obesogens in the research, the medical research, scientific research, are literally chemicals or metals that have been found to make the body put on weight. So there are too many to name here, but you can start to research what are the sources and how do they kind of change the hormone system? How do they move the body towards deposition of fat? So these obesogens are good things to start to avoid.
The first step is, I always like to differentiate drainage versus detox. Drainage is making sure your pathways are open. Liver bile duct, making sure that's moving, making sure you're not constipated in the colon, the lymphatic system, the brain drainage, making sure you sweat. These are all the normal, kidneys actually urinating. These are all normal drainage pathways that the body just moves things out and out of the body. If you are clogged drainage wise, if you're constipated, if the liver bile duct is clogged, which is one of the number one issues I see with autoimmune cases and chronically ill people, is this liver bile duct. If that's clogged, the last thing you want to do is jump into trying to detox, because the toxins have nowhere to go. So when we're looking at detox, drainage is first, and then now we can actually start detoxification. Detoxification first starts by limiting how much we're exposed to, right? Because you can't clear out what's built up in your body if you're constantly being exposed to things. So remove the source is number one. Then the second thing is, let's start, emptying our bucket. We all have toxins throughout our lifetime that we're exposed to that kind of pile into our bucket. Our mom gave us some toxins that add to our bucket as well too. So we want to start emptying that. Some easy ways to start is to increase glutathione in our body. So glutathione it's a little bit longer word, but it's involved in what they call phase 2 detox. But what you need to know about it, it's the strongest antioxidant in our body. Our body naturally makes it, but it's also a very good detoxifier. But here's the thing. Those with autism, those with cancer, those with health issues are going to have lower glutathione. So we want to do something to help boost that up and get that moving. So there's different things like liposomal glutathione. There's different products like, or foods even like whey protein that can help raise glutathione. There's precursors as well. There's things that actually help recycle it. So I think doing some research in the glutathione category or side of it can be very beneficial and very valuable in detoxification. Also, if you have heavy metal toxicity, you can look at true chelators like, ALA, DMSA, EDTA, DMPS. These are not for the faint of heart, though. I always recommend working with a practitioner that understands true, heavy metal detoxification and what to do. But the cool thing right now, too, is that there's great science on humic acid and fulvic acid, and there's actually been ways that scientists have been able to modify it so that it doesn't grab on necessarily to like vitamins and nutrients, but it just grabs on to chemicals and toxins. And that's a great place to start, very gentle. So I like bioactive carbons. I love glutathione. Some other things to consider are maybe like a zeolite or even like a hydrolyzed clinoptilite fragment, which is like a fragment of a zeolite as well. So there's a lot of tools in detoxification, but glutathione is a great place to start. The bioactive carbons are a great place to start, and then you can start, removing things. Just don't do too intense off the bat, right? We want to make sure the body can handle it, and then you can just slowly increase. And as you want to dig deeper and go layers, we always recommend find a practitioner that can help, guide you, because detox, especially of heavy metals, can be a little complex, and then if something comes up, you want to know exactly what to do and how, and it can be a little scary when you're doing it on your own sometimes too.
One of the diets used to address weight issues and autoimmune diseases is the ketogenic diet. It's a special diet which is used to put your body into ketosis, which causes it to purge fat and in turn get rid of toxins.
So a ketogenic diet, and just to break that down for people, basically all the cells of our body, they run off of one of two energy systems. So basically they're either breaking down sugar in a process called glycolysis, or they're breaking down fatty acids, which we call ketones. So fats go into the liver converts these fats into ketones, which are water soluble. They can get right into the cell, right through the cell membrane, and right into the mitochondria and be used for energy. Now, when we look at the process of glycolysis, or using sugar for energy, sugar is a dirty fuel. What that means is that it produces very little cellular energy, and it produces a rampant amount of free radicals and what we call reactive oxygen species within the cell. So it produces a lot of pollution, and it doesn't get much gas mileage. The only real benefit of glycolysis is that we can do it very quickly. We can break sugar down into energy extremely quickly, and we don't need oxygen to do it. Ketones produce rampant amounts of energy, 16 to 18 times more energy per molecule of per ketone molecule versus a sugar molecule, and they produce somewhere between 40 to 60% less metabolic waste, less of these reactive oxygen species. And so therefore it's a clean energy, much better gas mileage and less pollution within the cell. The only caveat there is we actually need the presence of oxygen in order to break it down, and it's somewhat slower to produce all that energy than sugar. So really, the ideal way to reduce inflammation and damage, cellular damage, is to be able, when we have the presence of enough oxygen, like right now as we're talking, or when we're at rest, it's to use ketones as our primary energy source. And when we don't have the presence of oxygen, such as if I'm running a sprint or I'm doing intense weight training, I'm going to be turning and using glucose as an energy source. So we want to use glucose as our energy source for the shortest period of time, and then go back to using these ketones and having, in a sense, this level of metabolic flexibility where we're able to go back and forth. And so ketones are a great energy source, really because they reduce the amount of oxidative stress and stress on the cell and the cellular components. Okay, they reduce inflammation. We know inflammation is the underlying marker that we find in autoimmune disease and all chronic diseases. And so they reduce inflammation, reduce oxidative stress, and they're just more efficient overall fuel source. Therefore, our body is able to produce more energy, more cellular energy, so that all the cellular mechanics are able to eliminate environmental toxins more effectively. So we get less of a toxic bioaccumulation within our system.
What do you see as being that secret for why people aren't losing the weight?
Well, one of the secrets is actually undergoing a daily fast. That helps the body. In fact, it produces the benefit. There may be one benefit of this paleo diet, and that is if you're really aggressive in it, it can increase your ketone levels, and that's why people can actually feel better. But the best way of increasing your ketones is be on a plant-based diet and then not eat your evening meal. Mm-hmm. And a 15 to 17 hour fast a day dramatically improves the immune system. It improves brain health. It turns the neuroplasticity switches on, and it makes weight loss almost effortless. You can get down to your ideal weight, losing a pound or two a week, easily in that manner.
The ketogenic diet kind of came to me passively and over time. It's something that I knew a lot about as far as low carb, and that was the way to lose weight and get healthier. Yeah, so the lose weight, low carb diet was popular. It was what I was mainly promoting in my practice. And then the ketogenic kind of came along, and that was kind of the next step. Now, oddly enough, I had heard of the ketogenic diet when I was in my pediatric rotations because it's used for epilepsy, even in conventional medicine. So when I heard about the ketogenic diet, I wondered, like, well, that's used for epilepsy. Why are we talking about it in modern medicine for autoimmunity and inflammation and all that? And then it started putting the pieces together. Well, epilepsy is an inflammatory brain condition, so why wouldn't ketogenic diet work for so many other inflammatory conditions? So once I started hearing about it more and more, then I started looking into it more and more and started experimenting with it, experimenting my patients with it and seeing how they did, and experimenting on myself. I usually don't tell people to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So weird things like probiotic enemas, ketogenic diet, I'll often experiment on myself before others, and we had great success. So we kept using it and we promote it. We give people food plans. We tell them what to eat, how to eat, what to expect. Because I think that's one of the first things that people often think of, at least in Austin. We're we're a pretty healthy town, a pretty holistic town, and so many people think they eat great. For instance, recently I had a patient that said, well, I'm eating great, why am I pre-diabetic, why do I have inflammation, here are all the things I eat, all my friends wonder, like, how am I pre-diabetic with all this? And so we told her to do a sugar detox, and she had a miserable 3 days getting into ketogenesis. And what that tells you is that she was actually eating a lot more sugar than she realized, and her body wasn't designed to operate off of fat at all. It was designed to operate off of sugar because that's the main source of calories that she was eating. So when you switch into a fat-burning metabolism, your body, your DNA has to wake up in order to actually use that fat as energy. Yes, your body can make the energy, but if it's not used to surviving off of it, you can go through a pretty nasty crash.
So two of the foods that are most directly linked with excess weight are sugar and dairy products. As it happens, my family knows a bit about sugar and dairy products because my grandfather was the founder of the Baskin-Robbins ice cream company. And ice cream is fundamentally sugar and dairy with a lot of other flavorings and stuff added. My grandpa founded this company and it became the world's largest ice cream company. And my dad, John, grew up with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool in the backyard and 31 flavors of ice cream in the freezer. And he was groomed from early childhood to one day join in running the family company. But as he got a little older, he realized that ice cream was not contributing to health for humanity. And his own uncle, my grandpa's brother-in-law and business partner, Bert Baskin, died of heart disease at the age of 54. And my dad took a look at his uncle Bert, and he was one of the most successful entrepreneurs in American history, but he didn't have his health, and he lost his life. And my dad didn't want to spend his life selling a product that would contribute to more people like his uncle dying sooner than they needed to and leaving their wives widows and their kids fatherless. And he said, I want to contribute to health. So he ended up walking away from the ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool and any access to the family wealth to follow his own rocky road, as we say in our family. And he moved with my mom to a little island off the coast of Canada where they built a one-room log cabin and grew most of their own food and named their kid Ocean. That's me. And in time, my dad ended up becoming a best-selling author, writing books about food and health, like Diet for New America, which inspired millions of people to look at their food choices as a chance to make a difference in the world. The media had a lot of fun with the story. They called my dad the rebel without a cone. His own dad wound up in his early 70s suffering from serious weight issues, diabetes, heart problems. His doctor said he didn't have long to live unless he read this book. And they handed him a copy of my dad's book, Diet for New America, which my grandpa read, followed its advice, changed his diet, reduced his animal product consumption dramatically, ate a lot more vegetables and whole foods, gave up ice cream, gave up sugar, wound up losing 30 pounds, getting off all of his diabetes and high blood pressure medications. His golf game improved 7 strokes, and he added 20 more healthy years to his life. So we have seen in our family what can happen when we follow the standard American diet, perhaps with a double scoop of ice cream on top, and what can happen when we make a change. And I'm passionate about spreading this knowledge to as many people as possible. The thing that aggravates me so much in the food world right now is that we have a status quo that is sickening and killing hundreds of millions of people. And we know better. We know unequivocally how we could transform so many lives. We could make heart disease a thing of the past. We could cut rates of cancer by 50%. We could cut diabetes by 90% just by following simple, proven, known practices. And we see this modeled. I mean, we can look at where people in the world live the healthiest and longest lives. It's been called the Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. And they all have certain things in common. They're eating whole foods. They're eating a plant-based diet. They have strong social connections. They have lots of exercise built into their everyday lives. And when we model ourselves off of these communities, we can take advantage of the exact same principles and get the same kind of results.
For the patient I just mentioned, she was inflamed, she was pre-diabetic, and so for the first 3 days that she switched to ketogenic, usually we take people down slowly, but she chose to go all in. And within about a week span, she was already feeling better than she had felt in, she said, decades. This is a woman that's tried multiple things, taken supplements, she does CryoFit all the time, vitamin infusions, and she wasn't really getting the success she wanted. And so as soon as she hit ketogenesis, She started losing weight, feeling better, energy levels perked up, digestion symptoms improved. She had been bloated for years and didn't really fully understand why. Yeah, so she had a previous stool sample with yeast overgrowth on it that another functional medicine doctor had tried to treat her and never really got to resolution of symptoms. She didn't have a test to prove she didn't, but she just didn't feel well, so she knew something else was missing. And so when she went into ketogenesis and she got so much better so quickly, we pretty much know that she definitely eradicated whatever fungus, yeast overgrowth was in there. And I don't mean to say eradicate like yeast doesn't need to be there at all, but at least bring it down into balance where it needs to be, and get the body switched over to more of a fat burning metabolism, which is kind of healthier. That's how we were designed. That's where, if you look back at the Paleolithic era, what humans ate at that time was mostly fats. I forget the percentage, but our percentage of carbs was somewhere around 5 to 10%, and the other majority was fats, and then of course vegetables. So it's not a surprise that when we get to that kind of diet, when we eat in a ketogenic style, it kind of wakens our ancient DNA. And can reset the body. I think in America, we're so used to eating 3 meals a day and snacks in between and drinks and sodas and all that, that our body never really kicks into fasting. Yeah, we sleep for 8 hours and you don't eat for those 8 hours, so you kick into fasting a little bit, but that's not really enough to kick into ketogenesis and get the body to really survive off of fat. And you can tell, because if you're someone that's never done ketogenesis before and has been eating a fairly high carb diet, and all of a sudden you do ketogenic diet, you will feel so much different. So when you start from a high carb diet or high sugar diet and you go to a low carb diet like that, you realize how much sugar you were eating, because you feel terrible because your body's not used to running off of fat. And so you can gradually do it, of course, to lessen the symptoms, but it really wakens you up and says, wow, I was really eating way too much sugar, way too much carbs.
A lot of people go to Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi because they're trying to cut down on calories. And if weight loss was just about calories, that would work. But when we understand that it's about food addiction, we come to realize that actually it doesn't work. And this is why I think studies are telling us that people who drink more diet sodas are more likely to suffer from weight problems. In fact, diet sodas are correlated with more net weight gain than sugary sodas. How could this be? They don't have calories in them. Well, here's what we think, and I don't think there's anyone that's completely definitive on this, but we think that because the sweet taste is tricking the brain, the body actually responds as if it was sugar. There was nothing in nature that our bodies were designed to consume that tastes that sweet and that doesn't give us the sugar rush. So the body responds as if there was sugar there, but there isn't. Then it feels tricked. So guess what? People who drink diet sodas crave even more of the very foods that we should be eating less of. So they're going to have more junky calories later, typically, after having a diet soda. So if you want that crisp, refreshing, sparkling taste, go for some sparkling water with ice. Put a little lemon in it.
You don't really realize, especially in America, how much sugar we crave, how your sugar cravings are when you open the fridge. What do your taste buds gravitate towards? Is it gravitating towards the yogurts and the ice creams and stuff? That's sugar cravings. And once you wipe out the sugar from your diet, it doesn't take long before those sugar cravings start to fade. And it's so empowering to realize that you have the willpower to pass up the sugar. The food industry has hijacked our taste buds, as Mark Hyman says. They've designed foods to be perfectly addictive with the right amount of sugar and the right amount of salt. And so we've kind of beat people up in America saying the reason you're obese is because you don't exercise enough and you eat too much. Well, that's not really the case. The reason we're obese is because we're eating the wrong types of foods and we're addicted to sugar. So once you get rid of the sugar, you realize how much your sugar cravings go down and how easy it is to continue that lifestyle. That's probably the biggest shocker to people once they get the sugar and carbs out of their diet, how easy it is to maintain. Now, ketogenesis is difficult to maintain going forward. It's hard to maintain that low of a carb. You have to want it. But at least getting into ketogenesis resets your sugar cravings so that you can eat a lower carb food plan and still feel great.
By using methods such as the ketogenic diet, many people have been able to see the weight just melt off. Many people have struggled for years with no results, have been able to finally see a difference with this method.
We've used the HCG diet, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. The HCG diet is basically a ketogenic diet that people are on a highly restricted caloric intake. They're only allowed to eat 500 to 750 calories, and it's pretty much just protein and vegetables. At the same time, they're actually injecting a peptide, the HCG peptide, which is the pregnancy hormone, and they kick into ketogenesis. And the idea behind the HCG is that the HCG is the same peptide that the fetus makes while a female is pregnant, and this peptide goes around the human system and basically says, hey, you have to feed the parasite that's inside you because your baby's more important than you. So sacrifice your fat stores, sacrifice whatever excess energy you have to feed this parasite, this baby. And so we use HCG even for men in a ketogenic diet to help appease the appetite and make sure we're tapping the fat stores that may be a little more resistant. And so we've seen incredible results with that. It's a 40-day program typically, and we've seen people lose up to 40 to, I've even had one guy lose 60 pounds. He was having terrible migraines, and he was more focused on the weight, but I was more focused on the migraines. So we decided to do the HCG diet, and so he kicked into ketogenesis, and by the end of the diet, he had lost 60 pounds and his migraines were gone.
That's incredible, man.
It was truly remarkable.
And he would have been happy and feel great. He would have felt grateful, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. He was on Topamax and Imitrex and all kinds of drugs to help manage his migraines, and he didn't really realize that the ketogenic diet was going to help him with those too.
Excellent. So he didn't need to take the migraine meds anymore?
Nope, not after that.
It went after the root of the problem.
Absolutely. Inflammation.
A lot of people in the fitness space eat a lot of carbohydrates, and so they get big in the winter and then they have to cut down in the spring, and so they're really their body weight fluctuates a lot. But with this way of eating and this lifestyle, you don't have to worry about it. Stay lean year round.
Do you think that there's hidden reasons why people aren't losing weight?
Yeah, brilliant questions. There's a million hidden reasons, but I think the number one issue is just metabolic inflexibility, metabolic dysfunction, stemming from circadian rhythm imbalances, gut-bacteria imbalances, which we can talk more about, and just excessive carbohydrates that cause metabolic dysfunction. So I think the biggest thing that I would tell people is to not starve yourself, not over-exercise, just honor your body's circadian rhythms. First thing in the morning, get out, get some natural sunlight, do fasted cardio. It's surprisingly effective. In fact, every fitness model and bodybuilder that gets down to 4% body fat, they do fasted cardio every single morning with a little bit of caffeine, like green tea or coffee. I found that to be helpful. When I went, when I first got into this 2.5 years ago, I went hardcore keto for a very long time and ended up losing strength and muscle mass and felt skinny and my hair was falling out and things like that, right? So I mean, if you have a disease process like cancer, like neurologic disorders, like maybe autoimmunity, like Crohn's or colitis, where a ketogenic diet could really help with that. I think short-term, high-intensity, strict ketosis is needed in that context. But if you want to lose a little weight, you want to prevent weight gain over time, and just improve your overall health, reduce inflammation, I think the best approach is more of a cyclical ketogenic style diet, incorporating exercise and periodic intermittent fasting. That's the advantage of losing weight. It's not just about health, it's other aspects of their life. And so they can be a more productive member of society. So that's one of the things that, again, because we're incorporating, in the programs that I like to teach, it's not just about keto and low carb diets. It's we're talking about circadian rhythms, we're talking about detox, we're talking about exercise, stress management, sleep, all these elements that comprise our resting metabolic rate and our ability to burn fat or store fat we're working on. So then people have these sweeping lifestyle shifts and they feel more awake and alive, in their lives, right? So more grateful, more opportunities. So that's what I've seen with a lot of my clients is just different changes in that regard.
When I meet the people who are living in a right-sized body, who are not obsessed with food anymore, and they give me a hug and they tell me how much bright line eating means to them and how much learning about the message that I'm sharing with the world means to them, I guess I just relate it to my own journey and how getting to live this life instead of that life, getting to finally be freed from the torment of constantly having my life be about trying yet another path to try to lose weight.
Can you think of one particular person? Just think for a moment, just get a moment. Think about one particular time when it hit you
And it reminded you, and it was a deeper seed than regular.
Oh, I think of Julia. Every time I talk to her, she cries. She just cries and just...
Why does she cry? Why?
She cries because she was so desperate that when she found me in Bright Line Eating, she was about to die from her blood work numbers were so bad, you know. Her triglycerides were 300, her cholesterol was well over 300. She was pre-diabetic. She was at a point where she was now counting down years of her life, and it was fewer than 10, you know. She was not an old woman. She was middle-aged, thinking I'm about to die because I can't get this food thing under control. And, you know, she's happy, thin, and free. She's completely free. Her blood work number, you know, her cholesterol's normal. Her blood pressure's normal. Her triglycerides are normal. She's no whiff of diabetes at all. She's completely slender. She's lost all her excess weight, and, you know, she just cries and says, I would absolutely choose this over winning the Powerball lottery any day. Not even a question, you know.
No money could pay it, right?
No money can pay. And I feel the same way. Like, I would give you my arm before I would give back my transformation. Like, I would spend one day in that body that I used to have, but not many more than that. Like, I would give you my arm before I would go there. I really would.
After several years of research on the low-carb diet, we opened a clinic at Duke University that pretty much uses the low-carb ketogenic diet, or ketogenic diet. So people come to me now for the lifestyle change. They don't necessarily know what lifestyle change I'm going to help them do. My practice is also known as an obesity medicine practice. And it's a holistic practice because what you eat really matters. So the way I approach people coming to me for help with obesity, with diabetes, any chronic medical condition really, arthritis gets better, heartburn, is that what you eat really matters. And I want you to eat real food, meaning food that's not in a box or a bag, generally speaking, food that your grandmother would recognize as food, not things that are processed, highly processed. So what that does is makes the food that you eat lower in carbohydrates automatically, because you're not having lots of refined sugars, you're not having lots of, you know, potatoes, pasta, rice, things like that. And that is the general principle, is eat real foods.
You have a study that's demonstrating that the low-carb diet can be particularly effective with type 2 diabetes. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. A little history. 100 years ago, the low-carb diet was used to treat diabetes. It was forgotten over the last half of the 20th century, the 1900s, and thought to be bad. So our research started with looking at the safety of the diet, and then as I was learning about the diet and that it was safe, I kind of relearned, resurrected the information from 100 years ago to get it to as a treatment for diabetes. Thinking about it, remember, diabetes is a condition where the blood sugar is too high. And if you want to lower the blood sugar by what you eat, then don't eat so much sugar. So the problem with that simplicity is it flies in the face of most major organizations which recommend that diabetics eat lots of carbohydrates. But I think the reason for that is most of the doctors who are treating diabetes put people on a medication. And a medication can make the blood sugar go too low. And eating carbohydrates keeps the blood sugar from going too low. So in our approach, which involves the nutrition and the medical management, if we lower the carbohydrate, then we lower the medication that treats the diabetes at the same time. So we've done studies, other people have done studies with diabetes and the ketogenic diet as well. And you just want to be sure that you do it with a doctor or a practitioner who understands how to help you lower the medications. We're trying to get the information out about the low-carb diet, and we've started a company called Heal Clinics that actually will support people and help them come off the medications.
What breaks my heart is how many people are suffering right now with excess weight and with a society that blames people, shames people, even tortures people for that weight that they're carrying. I want to have compassion. I want to have compassion for everybody. You know, what you look like on the outside, of course it matters, but who you are on the inside is so much more important. That said, You know, when we carry excess weight, it's harder to get out of bed in the morning. It's harder to exercise. It's harder to have vitality and joy in life. And it does increase your odds of getting heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and so many other illnesses. So I do want to help people to break free. Now, let's look at the facts here. We have right now more than 105 million people in the United States alone who are on a diet, right at this moment. The weight loss industry is more than $100 billion a year. Do you know of any other place in the world, or any other zone where people are spending this much money, having this much suffering, and trying this hard with so little result? Less than 1% of weight loss diets succeed long term. Less than 1%. It's like sending your kid off to college and there's a 1% graduation rate. So if that happens, do you blame your kid or do you blame the college? You know, people are blaming themselves. They feel ashamed. They think they're failing. They don't have willpower. They don't have motivation. I'll tell you what, we got plenty of willpower, we got plenty of motivation. What we don't have is the basic knowledge of why this weight is accumulating in the first place and what we can do to release it. So there's a few facts with weight loss. I mean, number one, obviously calories and exercise are huge factors. And there are 9 calories per gram of fat and 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate or protein. So more fat can tend to equate with more calories. And calories that are not burned as exercise can accumulate into fat on the body, of course. But there's a lot more to it than that. What we're learning is that there is a neuroscience to food addiction. And a lot of people do not actually have control over their food lives. So let me ask you, do you ever have cravings for foods that you know aren't good for you? Do you ever see a candy or sugary snack or a cake and feel, or ice cream, and feel some kind of insatiable desire to have it? Because most people do. And the reality is that some part of our brain is hooked. So a lot of people who are struggling with weight issues need to draw sharp, bright lines. Think of it like an addiction to certain foods. And I'll tell you what the most common foods are that are driving this addiction are sugar and flour products, because those are going into the body and functioning very much like a drug. Sugar can be more addictive than cocaine. And so we have so many people right now that are actually addicted, physiologically and psychologically, to foods that are not in their best interest. So, you know, just like an alcoholic can't have one drink, you've got to draw a sharp line. The same, I think, is true around sugar and often around flour products. And when people draw a sharp line and are able to stay with it, it gets easier and easier to break free. We also need to look at animal products here, because there is a major correlation between consumption of animal products and excess weight. The average vegetarian is about 10 to 15 pounds lighter than the average meat eater. Now, there are plenty of vegetarians who are struggling with excess weight, don't get me wrong here. But in general, statistically, there is this trend. And one of the biggest reasons is that vegetarians are consuming more fiber, more plants, typically, and obviously less animal products, which tend to have high amounts of fat. And the fat itself, it's a higher, richer source of calories. So when we restrict that, then we have more opportunity to get our bodies functioning at optimal vitality and wellness. So animal products and sugar products and flour products are all associated with excess weight. And what I want to say to anybody who is, whether you have a few pounds here or there that you might not like, or whether you're struggling with serious weight challenges, or whether you know somebody who is, what I want to say is that freedom is possible. That you don't have to be on the diet treadmill, you don't have to be stuck in this addictive pull. You can break free. And of course, in this series, I hope you're learning how.
So, by dropping the weight, we can reverse weight-related conditions like diabetes and heart disease. Even cancer risk can be reduced by addressing the weight issue.
Now, I've seen transformations. I mean, my books are just littered with testimonies of people who you can call. I mean, you can go to their websites. Dr. Felicity Corbin Wheeler, I mean, we spoke in the early, just after 2000, after the turn of the millennium. She had late-stage pancreatic cancer. She went out to Dr. Brian Clement at the Hippocrates Center, ate the best food on God's earth, and completely cleared late-stage pancreatic cancer, which, by the way, was the disease that killed Steve Jobs and Patrick Swayze. I've seen countless people with cancer who are taking control over their lives and enjoying the process of regaining their health again. Dr. Thomas Lodey is famous for saying that he often gets two types of people who come to him with cancer. One who, and when he says to them, here's what you've got to do, you get one of two reactions. One is either, wow, what an opportunity, I'm going to transform myself, and the other is, oh, I've really got to start doing all of that. And his thing is, guess who's still alive 5 years later? It's the people who took it and ran with it. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Parkinson's or MS or osteoporosis or, anything like this. There's a lady called Bernadette Bowen in Dublin, and she had breast cancer that was going away, coming back, going away, coming back. When she heard the message about simply eating according to species and not according to the food industry, and also doing some exercise and so a few other things, she completely reversed this. And now what does she do? She's getting the word out. Jessica Richards, she actually phoned me up just before I came out to Australia. We were doing a convention in the home counties on cancer. She phoned me up. She said, "Can I come and address your convention?" I said, "Yeah." She gets up in front of these people and she says, "Look, I'm here. I'm living witness to you today that I'm still alive when I was told that I wasn't going to make it. I'm alive today because what I did is I assessed what the body needed to do, and it didn't make sense for me to poison my body." So she said, I basically trusted my senses, put the best food I could in my body, did some exercise, kept my thought life under control. And by the way, my oncologist, she said, has been monitoring me going through this whole process, and he's amazed as well.
So cancer is directly related to the immune system. We've got basically two arms of the immune system. And the arms of the immune system need to be balanced. So think of it like a teeter-totter. We don't want one arm tipped more than the other. So the two arms, and these are the main ones, there's some more complexities to it, but there's Th1 immune system, and there's Th2. And then there's a bunch of chemokines and cytokines that are part of these arms per se. But Th1 is basically that immediate response of the immune system. So when there's a foreign invader, it goes in, it tags it, and then it also does cellular repair, or basically like cell cleanup. And then Th2 immune system comes in, and that's more longer term. So let's say that you get exposed to mercury. Mercury goes on the thyroid, the immune system's like, what is this foreign thing? It goes in to try to kill it. It can't kill mercury because it's an elemental element on the periodic table. It's not a living organism. And so the tissue around it starts being killed. That causes that's autoimmunity of the thyroid. So what happens then is Th1 tagged it, Th2 goes in, and the body gets stuck in there because the mercury's not dying. So it's chronically in this Th2 dominance. This is where we get the RA, the MS, the lupus. So we get stuck in this teeter-totter where Th2 you're stuck in. And then what happens is now we're deficient of Th1, and Th1 is that cellular cleanup, or that cellular debris, or when abnormal cells are formed, it's going to clean it up. So if we're deficient of Th1, that's where the cancer risk comes in, because we're missing the cellular cleanup or the abnormal cell replication, and we're stuck in Th2. So cancer really revolves around autoimmune in nature of Th1 versus Th2 from an immune standpoint. So if we're dealing with cancer and abnormal cell replication and stuck in Th2, then we want to do things to help boost Th1 and bring down or modulate Th2. Or obviously if we're stuck in Th1 dominance, then we want to balance that. But on the cancer side, it's usually Th1 suppression that then will put somebody at risk of cancer. I mean, your body was designed to heal. So when you support the body, remove what's interfering with it, our job, like from a clinician standpoint, is identify, okay, what's interfering with it, and let's work on removing it, and let's get out of the way. Let's let the body heal. So your job as a listener right now, taking all this information, whether it's for yourself or a family member, is to identify, okay, what's holding me back or what's holding them back, and how can we start naturally removing that and going after it to then let the body heal. And when it heals, there's life, there's health, there's happiness. And when things are inflamed and the body is not well, that's where disease and sickness, unhappiness really thrives. So let's focus on, again, identifying what's holding you back and how can we get you well and keep you well. That is always the goal. Keep moving forward. You've come this far on the journey of the Autoimmune Secrets docu-series with Jonathan Otto. I know him personally, and he's got one of the biggest hearts that I know. I mean, I swear, every other week he's traveling to Africa and helping those that are suffering of hunger issues, and I honestly feel a little jealous for all of the help that he's doing out in the world. So I really hope that you'll support the mission of helping others. Please purchase this. Definitely share it with your friends and family. And again, maintain the hope, keep moving forward, and you will get well and stay well.
Hi, this is Jonathan, my wife.
This is Lori.
We are here to share with you about part of our mission in this world. Our mission is to alleviate suffering, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I believe that there's no greater calling in life. I believe that you yourself are called to help end suffering in lives, in your own life, in the lives of people that you have influence with. And we definitely feel that calling very deeply in our soul, and I've felt it since ever I can remember, and I've shared that story with you. But my wife and I, we feel a commitment to helping people that are suffering because, there's a remembrance there for me with everything that I've gone through, the pain I felt. But then a lot of the pain that I've often felt is not situations that I technically could have empathy for. I've never starved before, but we're committed in Africa. But I think it's because God links all of our hearts together, and each other's problems become our problems in a very meaningful and beautiful way. And so we've taken up that banner, and we're committed to helping to alleviate suffering. And we're waging our war against autoimmunity because it has attacked so many of our family and our friends, and there is such an emptiness in terms of what people understand about what they can do.
Yes, for sure. There's such a lack of knowledge, and there's such an opportunity at the same time to learn this knowledge. And not only that, you're bettering your lives, you're helping others, and especially in a different part of the world where they can't help themselves.
Yeah, so we just want to let you know that it's an important mission to us, and it's just beautiful. The last experience I had, it was just a matter of weeks ago. It was around 6 weeks ago from now. I was with a group of people, internally displaced people, kind of like refugees, and they had been allotted some land, but most of them lacked tools and seeds, and we were able to supply these things. We do it through all these different regions, and this one particular woman, I didn't get to meet these people all the time because it's a lot of people, but this one woman, she's guided up and she's totally blind. I put my hands in front of her face, and there's no recollection, she can't see anything. Yet I say, how are you able to be here and be walking around? She's like, I'm here, I memorize where I'm to walk, and I dodge the watermelons. She's planting watermelons, and she's a successful farmer. She's making just a couple of $100, like $100 to $200 a month, but that amount of money for her is able to put her child through computing studies. Her face lights up. She's just so happy. She has a future, and that just lights me up because I just love to see people doing what they love.
And her response is incredible. How does it feel to be able, what was the question that you asked?
Yeah, I said, how does it feel to be, to have done what you've done, putting your child through computing studies? And she said, it's hard to sleep at night when I think about where I got this money.
Imagine being able to not sleep at night for good reasons, right? Instead of reasons because of health, because of suffering. We want to turn it around. So yes, we want our sleep, but it's exciting to know when people's lack of sleep is because they're so excited about life, the simple things in life that they need and we all need.
That's what we want you to have.
Yes.
We want you to have that experience of it's hard to sleep because I'm so excited, because I'm making changes in my life and I'm feeling the difference and I can see my future. We're just so thankful that you are here, that you have this gift in your hands, that you have this truth, and that it will set you free.
Yes.
And you are free. You have that.
You're free indeed.
Yeah, you are free, and that is the gift that you've been given, and we're just so grateful that we get to be a part of that.
Yes.
We love you. We care about you.
Yes.
We're glad that you've trusted in us, and we're here for you. And we just want to let you know that when you make the decision to support our mission by owning this series, you're supporting people around the world, and you're supporting a wonderful movement that is about putting an end to autoimmune disease. And we continue to go about this work and continue to create new resources,
Yes.
capture new stories, new insights as new developments will come out. They will be coming out over the next few months, over the next few years. We will be able to continue giving you that help and advice and support. And that's part of the reason why we created the Gold package, which has the live question and answer calls for 6 months with our experts from our series, including, so I'll be on the line as well, and we'll be fielding your questions. It's a 90-minute call or more, depending on the questions, and you'll be able to ask your questions, and they will be able to fuel you with new insights that are coming through the pipeline, and you'll be able to ask those important questions that you need to ask with the awesome experts, including medical doctors and holistic doctors that will be on that call. How cool, right?
It's definitely.
Yeah. So make the decision today to own either the silver or the gold package and come with us on this journey, and so we can continue this amazing support that we're giving across the world, the support that we can give to you through this precious resource that will help equip you with what you need to know and your loved ones in these difficult times, but these times when we have knowledge and power.
Yes.
Because of the tools that we have. And Autoimmune Secrets is that gift. So please bless your loved ones with it by taking the decision to own it today. Thank you.